What if the success you're chasing is wearing you down? In today's episode, we're talking about the difference between fast wins and sustainable success, and why a slower, more intentional growth may be the wiser way to grow. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Jameela Adams Experience, a podcast for women over 40 who are ready to rediscover their strength, purpose, and voice in business and life. I'm your host, Jameela Adams, and today we're wrapping up the Intentional Growth series with a conversation that feels especially timely for entrepreneurs right now. Because everywhere you run, or everywhere you turn, I should say, everywhere you turn, the message is always the same: grow faster, make more money, more growth, be more visible. But we don't talk enough about what it takes to sustain growth. A quick win feels good. It will always feel good. That's not what I meant. Anyway, but the foundation, if the foundation isn't there, it'll create more strain than stability. Today we're talking about the difference between fast wins and sustainable success, and why a slower, more intentional growth may actually lead to something stronger in the long run. And if you ever felt like you were behind because your growth didn't look dramatic enough, trust me, we've all been there, and it's okay. Slow does not mean stagnant. Quiet does not mean unsuccessful. And taking your time to build something solid does not mean that you're missing out. It just means that you're building something with wisdom. I want us to unpack what sustainable success looks like in real life, and not just in theory. Because there is a difference between a business that gets attention and a business that can actually support you, serve people well, and still leave you with energy, peace of mind, and room to breathe. And this is where we have to look at things, because many of us were taught to believe that faster always means better. I mean, look at our cars, look at our internet. You get what I'm getting at, right? On social media, it can reinforce that because we're constantly seeing a highlight reel, big launches, huge income claims, overnight success stories. But what people don't show are the burnout, the debt, anxiety, lack of systems, inconsistent income. That's what people don't want you to see. So, a fast win without structure can become hard to sustain. The truth is that there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are exhausted trying to maintain an image instead of building something stable, something real. Let's be real for a second, because fast wins are exciting, and I'm not here to demonize that. Whatever it is that gets you through, like a viral post, a sudden spike in sales, a great launch, those are blessings, and that will give you momentum. And I'm not talking about that. I'm not going to demonize that. But here's the thing: if the back end of your business is messy, and if your pricing is unsustainable, and let's talk about your energy, if it gets depleted, then that quick win can turn into pressure that you're not prepared to uphold. Sorry, that's just how it is. That's why some people hit great milestones and still don't feel secure. They've made the money, they got the visibility, they attracted the clients, but underneath it all, they're overwhelmed. They're still doing too much manually. They're still undercharging. They still haven't built the process that allows them the success to repeat itself without costing them their peace. So, sustainable growth isn't flashy. It really isn't. Sometimes it looks like improving systems, tightening boundaries, simplifying orders or offers, creating consistency, and taking care of yourself. And yes, you may grow slower, but it will last longer, because sustainability creates businesses that can survive hard seasons and not just the good ones. I'm looking for that for myself. So, anyway, sustainable success often feels less glamorous in the moment because it requires discipline. And who really wants discipline? Let's be real here. And if you take a pause to consider what actually works for me, what can I maintain? What supports the way I want to live, the kind of life that I want? Those may not be the questions that people celebrate online. And let's be real here, they don't. I mean, unless you know the real ones, they're not. But they are necessary questions for us to ask ourselves. For example, maybe sustainable growth means serving fewer clients at a higher level instead of saying yes to everyone. Maybe it means one strong signature offer instead of five confusing ones. And I know I've talked about this in previous episodes about creating systems that works for you and not against you. Here's the thing. Building a weekly workflow that helps you show up consistently without living in panic mode is golden. That is something we should all be striving for as entrepreneurs. That kind of growth may not look impressive from the outside, but it will support your real life. And that's what we want, something that will support our real life without having us running around with our heads on fire. Because I sure don't want to do that anymore. So here are a few questions that entrepreneurs should ask themselves. And trust me, you're not alone. Can my business function without me doing anything? And you really have to ask yourself that. Can I step away if there was a life changing event or if I just needed to regroup? Can your business function without you? The other question you need to ask is, am I building systems or just reacting constantly? You don't want to be reactive. You want to be proactive, especially when it comes to your business. Proactive is always better than reactive. The other question is, does my business support my life or does it control it? And that's a tough thing to ask. I really need for you to sit down with yourself on that one because I had to sit down with myself on that question too. The other question is, am I chasing validation or alignment? Tough one, huh? Because everybody thinks that being an entrepreneur is the epitome of lifestyle, but if you can't validate why you're doing it, or I should say, give reason why you're doing it, then what's the point? The last question you should ask yourself is, would I still want this business in 5 years from now if nothing changed? And that's something you really have to sit with too. These questions can bring a lot of focus, and sometimes they're really hard choices too. And the reason these questions matter is because they reveal whether you're building from clarity or survival mode. And like I've talked about this in previous episodes, we really need to stay out of survival mode. But if you haven't put in the proper systems in place, this is what you're doing. A lot of us have learned how to hustle under pressure. And remember that saying, if you don't work, you don't eat. And that's one of those things we have been ingrained in our heads, has been ingrained in our heads. But hustle is not the same thing as strategy. Constant motion is not the same thing as meaningful progress. And I'll repeat that. Constant motion is not the same as meaningful progress. So if any one of those questions made you uncomfortable, don't avoid them. Sit with them because you really need to understand what you're doing with your business. And in this day and age, we can't, what is it? Failure is not an option because we can't fail. So let them guide your next decision because awareness is powerful. Once you can see what's clearly unsustainable, you can begin to change it. So, what does intentional growth mean? That was the theme for this month. Intentional growth means growing with purpose, making strategic decisions, protecting your peace, staying aligned with your values, and building something sustainable. That's basically what intentional growth is. And truly, this is a kind of thing that we want our business to have, especially something that we want to pass on as our legacy. So it's not just a profitable business, it's a healthy business. And this is what we want for ourselves, something healthy. And a healthy business allows room to rest. It has systems, it has boundaries, and the offers that it has make sense. The messaging is clear, and the pace you can honor beyond any good month. And that's really something you have to sit with. It doesn't require you to abandon yourself just to prove that you are serious. So, if you're in a season of tightening, refining, simplifying, and rebuilding, you're not alone. I want you to know that that growth still counts. You're not behind and you're not failing, no matter what people may think or kind of get in their heads about you. You're not failing. You may actually be laying the foundation for that kind of success that can carry you through the years. So, in closing, I want to say thank you for hanging out with me during the Intentional Growth series. This is something that really meant a lot for me because it gave me an eye opener of the things I needed to change in my business. So, of course, I'm my own crash test dummy. So, whatever I talk about, I pass it on to you. So, I hope these conversations help you to slow down, refocus, and think about the type of business you're building. Because that's what we're doing. We're building things and being constructive and refining and like redesigning our life. And that's what I want us to do. Because growth is important, but intentional growth changes everything. So before you go, I want to leave you with this. You don't have to rush to be relevant. You don't have to exhaust yourself to prove you have ambition. You don't have to build your business the way everyone else is building theirs. What matters is that you're creating something that is aligned, sustainable, and true to the life that you actually want to live. I know I do. So take a moment this week and ask yourself, because you know we don't leave out of here without a challenge. What am I building? And will it be able to hold me? Will it be able to sustain me? That question alone should shift how you lead, how you plan, and how you grow from this point forward. So until next time, I want you to be inspired, be inspiring, be encouraged, be encouraging. But most of all, I want you to be you and never stop growing because you have to have intentional growth to build the business and the life that you want. So until next week, take care.